Having a partner might be detrimental to your health if you are over the age of 60. Here are 5 reasons why it might be better to remain alone. Do you ever find yourself wondering why some individuals are able to find peace and independence as they get older, while others feel as like they are trapped in their relationships? The reality is that having a companion may not always be the blessing that people believe it to be as you become older on average. In point of fact, for many people, it can become a poison that slowly and quietly consumes their energy, restricts the options available to them, and even makes their older years as stressful as they should be. On the off chance that you have ever experienced the feeling that maintaining a relationship at this point in your life requires more than it provides, you are not alone. Today, we are going to delve into 5 of the most important reasons why having a companion in old age might actually make life more difficult rather than easier. On top of that, just because you are aware of these factors does not indicate that you should completely avoid having companionship. Rather, it is about having the wisdom to grasp the bigger picture and making choices that are in your best interest in terms of your health and happiness. It is imperative that you remain with me until the very end, since the topic that we are going to talk about has the potential to completely alter the way you perceive relationships in your older years. First and foremost, the mental and emotional strain that comes with constant compromise. However, staying in a relationship frequently needs ongoing compromise. Despite the fact that your capacity to withstand stress that is not essential reduces as you get older, it may feel natural to make adjustments to your routines, tastes, and even your goals when you are younger. This is done for the sake of preserving harmony. Nevertheless, as time passes, you start to see that the peace you give up may not always be worth the sacrifices you make from time to time. The most basic decisions you make on a daily basis, such as what to eat, where to go, and how to spend your time, may quickly become unending conversations that sap your energy and leave you feeling emotionally empty. Taking Robert as an example. He is 74 years old and has spent decades adapting to the requirements of his wife. However, he recently came to the realization that his own ambitions had been put on the back burner for many years. His wife is adamant about watching loud television the moment she wakes up, despite the fact that he is in his latter years and all he wants to do is spend his mornings in silence. The accumulation of these kinds of minor problems over time transforms what was once a loving union into a series of concessions that are quite irritating. At some point in your life, you should no longer feel forced to accommodate every desire of another person at the expense of your own happiness. This is the truth that you should not feel. There are a lot of people who find themselves locked in emotional patterns in their relationships. These routines involve continually managing the sentiments of another person, reassuring them, apologizing to them, and altering situations. When one is older, however, the burden of these responsibilities may feel more burdensome than it ever has before. However, you may find that you are still trapped in cycles of making sure that your partner is happy, even if it means that you have to sacrifice your own happiness in order to ensure that they are happy. The uncompromising reality? It is no longer a relationship that helps you if it is one that causes you to expend your emotional energy as you become older. However, many individuals continue to be in relationships out of habit rather than true joy. They are oblivious of how much lighter life could be if they simply allowed themselves to step back from the load of perpetual compromise. Therefore, peace of mind should be your primary goal at this stage in life. The second issue is the surrender of genuine autonomy. One of the most significant liberties that comes with reaching old age is the opportunity to finally live life according to one's own terms. You have earned the right to do anything you want after decades of responsibility, of working hard, of raising children, and of sustaining relationships. Having a relationship, however, frequently means that your decisions are still dependent on the requirements, routines, and anticipations of another person. It is possible that you are sacrificing the one thing that makes this time of life truly joyful, full freedom. Even though you may believe that you are enjoying your golden years together. Taking into consideration frank, A man who is 78 years old and has devoted his entire life to becoming a husband. After the death of his wife, he came to the realization that he had never had the opportunity to make decisions alone for himself. From where they lived to what they ate to how they spent their leisure time. His entire life had been organized around the concept of working out a compromise. Something unexpected came to his attention as he at long last experienced the freedom that he had been seeking all along. The pleasure of waking up without any duties. Without having his schedule determined by the requirements of another individual. And without feeling the need to justify his decisions was something he had never experienced before. Without even realizing it. He had been yearning for a sense of liberation throughout his entire existence. This fact presents challenges for a great number of elderly couples. It is required of you to check in, coordinate schedules, and change your plans in order to accommodate another person. Even in relationships that are positive and fulfilling, there is no need to dislike your partner in this situation. Simply put, it is about acknowledging the extent to which your independence is diminished when you live with other people. If you no longer feel free to travel on a whim, pick up new hobbies without consulting anybody, or even adjust your routine without taking into consideration how other people would respond, you may no longer feel free to do any of these things. Another factor to consider is the gradual loss of mental autonomy that occurs over the course of time. Opinions in a long-term relationship tend to become entangled with one another, and separate points of view may become less prominent. There is a possibility that you are not even aware of the extent to which your thought process has been shaped by the years of conversations, debates, and compromises that you have had with your partner. You, on the other hand, are afforded the extraordinary opportunity to re-establish a connection with your unadulterated, unfiltered ideas when you are genuinely alone. You can recall what it was like to make choices simply based on what makes you happy, rather than with regard to what helps to keep a relationship in a state of equilibrium. Independence is not limited to simply living by one's lonesome. It is about having the freedom to move through life without being constrained in any way that is not required. There is a correlation between the length of time spent in a relationship and the degree to which you develop the ability to modify and adapt. The capacity to live without those invisible limits and to fully embrace your own wishes without any doubt is the best gift you can offer yourself when you reach old age. You can let me know that you are here by leaving a comment number 2 below if you are still viewing this video and finding these insights to be helpful. It is highly recommended that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any forthcoming videos. We are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you thanks to your support. Now, let's proceed with our plans. The emotional tiredness that comes with continual compromise is the third point to consider. In the beginning, it may appear that relationships bring about feelings of comfort, support, and delight. On the other hand, as you become older, you can start to understand that they also require something that you might not have, namely the stamina to always make concessions. The drain is gradual and subtle, and it may not appear noticeable until you have experienced the alternative, which is tranquil solitude in which every decision is made alone by you. A man named Robert, who is 74 years old and has been married for many years, is an example. Even though he had a deep affection for his wife, he frequently found himself choosing to watch movies instead of spending time with her. It was not something he enjoyed doing. Whether it was going to restaurants that were not his favorite or modifying his daily routine to accommodate hers. Despite the fact that none of them were very significant sacrifices on their own, they mounted up. Since she had died away, he anticipated experiencing feelings of isolation. Instead, he discovered that he was experiencing a profound sense of relaxation. Finally, he was able to do anything he wanted, whenever he wanted, without feeling the need to continually analyze how his actions would affect other people. Not that he did not love his wife, that was not the case. Simply put, he had failed to recognize how difficult it was to constantly compromise a position. It is a necessary aspect of maturation to make concessions when you are young. It instills patience, understanding, and the ability to work together. As one gets older, however, it becomes an even greater burden. It is still necessary to make adjustments to a relationship during a period of life when you ought to be taking some time off to relax, think, and truly appreciate your independence. Until you release yourself from the dynamic of constantly balancing your wants with those of another person, you might not even be aware of how much of yourself you have sacrificed as a result of being shared with a spouse. Even the most basic things of life can become emotionally draining. Discussions, agreements, and sometimes conflicts are involved in everything from determining how to design the home to making decisions regarding medical care. A great number of people eventually become exhausted as a result of this process, which causes them to feel more exhausted than they ought to be in subsequent years. The truth is that as you get older, one of the greatest privileges in life is the relaxation that comes from being able to make decisions without encountering opposition or controversy. The need to justify your decisions, defend your tastes, or stifle little annoyances is no longer upon you. This mental clarity, which is the capacity to just be oneself without censoring one's thoughts for the approval of another person, can be one of the most invigorating sensations of all time or any other. The fourth aspect is the responsibility of caregiving, which is something that is rarely spoken. Many individuals, when they think of long-term relationships in old age, picture love, support, and companionship that lasts into the final years of life they have left. When a partner's health begins to deteriorate, they frequently fail to take into account the substantial duty that comes with providing care for that partner. Furthermore, in many instances, this decrease occurs at a rate that is anticipated to be faster. To give you an example, consider James. He was 77 years old and had been married for more than half a century. It was only natural for him to take on the role of caregiver after his wife became ill. At first, it was bearable due to the fact that she was receiving emotional support, assistance with modest tasks, and making sure that she took her prescriptions. However, as the weeks grew into months, and the years became into decades, his own health started to fail. His stress levels were through the roof. He had gone through a weight loss, and he was having trouble sleeping. He had very little time to devote to concentrating on himself. Moreover, what began as a gesture of affection became into a responsibility that kept him occupied during each and every minute. This is a situation that many older couples find themselves in. When one of the partners becomes ill, it is common for the other to take on the obligation of providing full-time care for the sick partner. In addition, despite the fact that it could appear to be a noble and worthy act, the reality is that it can be extremely detrimental to one's own health, as a result of the stress that comes with attending to the requirements of another individual. Studies have shown that caregivers, particularly those who are elderly, frequently experience increased rates of depression, anxiety, and even physical sickness among themselves. This is a role that is not only physically hard but also emotionally taxing, and it restricts the amount of personal freedom that one has. A cruel irony is that by the time one partner passes away, the other partner is frequently left in worse condition than they would have been if they had remained alone. This is a situation that occurs quite frequently. The burden of caring about each other, making sure the other is eating properly, making sure to keep medical appointments, and remaining active can be mentally tiring. And this is true even if both partners are generally healthy. There are a significant number of elderly people who, in their latter years, opt to live alone or remain single, and they discover that they completely dodge this fate. They have the ability to prioritize their own well-being, which allows them to ensure that they keep their energy levels, their routines, and their own pleasure without having to constantly worry about the health of another person. It is a great thing to love someone, but it can be one of the most difficult things to bear to be responsible for the deteriorating health of another person. Making the decision to put your own mental and physical health first as you become older could very well be the finest choice you can make for yourself. Please leave a remark below. Number 4. to let me know that you are still watching this video and that you believe these insights to be helpful at this point. It is highly recommended that you subscribe to the channel and activate the bell if you have not already done so. This will ensure that you do not miss any forthcoming videos. We are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you thanks to your support. Now, let's proceed with our plans. Next on the list is the emotional and financial burden that late-life partnerships can cause. There is a widespread misconception that having a companion in old age gives comfort and stability. However, what these individuals fail to realize is that having a partner in old age can also bring about a significant amount of financial and mental burden. Some people find themselves dealing with the additional stress of shared expenses, medical bills, and even disagreements over money throughout their latter years of life. Despite the fact that this should be a period of calm for those who continue to be in relationships. Take, for example, Robert. A guy who was 80 years old and had been experiencing widowhood for more than 10 years. He was able to live a comfortable life because to his savings and pension. And he spent his time engaging in activities that he enjoyed. On the other hand, things shifted when he started a new relationship in the middle of his 70s. Suddenly, he found himself paying for more than he had anticipated, including shared living expenses, medical expenditures, and even supporting her adult children with their issues. His new partner had her own financial challenges, and he was completely unprepared for them. Within a short period of time, what began as a simple companionship evolved into an unspoken financial commitment. And before he knew it, he was spending money from his savings in order to keep the relationship going. This happens rather frequently when older citizens enter into romantic relationships later in life. They frequently discover that their financial stability becomes complexly entangled with the circumstances of the other person. In addition, while some couples are able to handle this situation effectively, others go through a period of intense stress when one partner is financially dependent on the other. Control, independence, and justice are all important considerations. And it's not just about the money. Beyond the financial cost, there is also the emotional cost to consider. It is possible for resentment to develop as a result of disagreements around spending habits, inheritances, or medical bills. However, there are some elderly people who find themselves stuck in unhealthy relationships, unable to leave because they are financially dependent or because they are afraid of being alone. So what happened? An increase in stress, a decrease in enjoyment, and a feeling of obligation that obscures what ought to be a satisfying conclusion to one's life should be the result. On the other hand, individuals who opt to maintain their single status frequently acknowledge that they experience a greater sense of control over their financial destinies. Spending money on their own terms, saving money without feeling guilty, and making decisions that are in their best interests are all things that they do, knowing that every dollar they earn, save, or spend is entirely up to them constitutes a sense of freedom for them. Love isn't the only thing that matters in relationships when people are getting older. One thing that many people fail to recognize is that they come with responsibilities, financial difficulties, and emotional tolls. It is possible that being independent is one of the most prudent decisions you can make if you place a high value on both financial stability and mental solace. Considerations to conclude. The decisions you make in your latter years become increasingly more significant as you progress through life and make your way through those years. The reality is that for some people, having a relationship is more stressful than it is joyful. Despite the fact that many people believe that having a partner is an absolute requirement, it is important to remember that becoming older should be about freedom. Freedom to make your own decisions. Freedom to live without constraints that aren't required. And freedom to put your own health and happiness first. It is not always the case that company is the reason for happiness. This is especially true when the friendship in question comes with responsibilities, disagreements, and restrictions on your ability to be independent. Take a time to think about your own life with some reflection. Can you say that the way you live your life is actually conducive to your happiness? Are you able to sustain relationships because they honestly provide you happiness? On the other hand, are you refusing to let go of them due to routine, fear, or obligation? Everyone's circumstances are unique. But there is one thing that can be said with absolute certainty. Your later years ought to be a period of tranquility, not one that is fraught with unintended difficulty. Whether you decide to be with someone or to maintain your independence, you should be sure that the reason you do so is because it actually improves the quality of your life. The process of aging is not about conforming to the expectations of society. Making the best choices for yourself is the most important thing this is about. And getting away from something that is no longer beneficial to you is sometimes the most intelligent choice you can make. You are really welcome to be here with us today. We are eagerly anticipating your response. What is one thing that you have learned today and how do you intend to apply it in your life? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. Please don't be shy about sharing your ideas with us because we genuinely value them. The act of reading your comments provides us with a great deal of inspiration and encouragement. Please give this video a like, subscribe to our channel, and share it with others if you found it entertaining and informative. We are able to continue producing high-quality content that will both inform and inspire you thanks to your support. We appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we hope to see you during the next video.